It's so complicated, convoluted, chaotic. It's hard to actually figure out what's what, but it's becoming clearer.
Named Diddy 77 times in court documents related to Tupac's murder.
It's so complicated, convoluted, chaotic. It's hard to actually figure out what's what, but it's becoming clearer. Named Diddy 77 times in court documents related to Tupac's murder. What if every single conspiracy theory about Shakur was true? That's where we start tonight. Footage rolling, the sound of FBI files shuffling under harsh desk light, the clock ticking. We're not talking about a late-night Twitter thread or an aging hip-hop forum, but concrete FBI documents unearthed, not just glanced at. Now, evidence in a newly reopened case tied directly to the collapse of one of the biggest names in music. Diddy. A shock. The FBI never dismissed the wild idea that Shakur might be alive off the grid, plotting his return like some real-life Machiavelli. For years, behind closed doors and locked evidence lockers, the FBI treated the Shakur is alive theory with the kind of seriousness normally reserved for organized crime and government overthrows. Why? Because everything about the original story stinks. The so-called drive-by, the vanished witnesses, the autopsy oddities, and then the decades of silence until now. 3 law firms on retainer. I don't know how much money is coming in, but I know that a lot of money is going out every single month for Diddy. It's not just the government looking suspicious. As these files come to light, we start to see a bigger, meaner picture of betrayal. A web with the FBI at one end and the upper echelons of the music industry at the other. Was Shakur just collateral? A pawn traded away in some dark deal to keep the dollars flowing and the scandals buried. We hear about a music world at war, East versus West. But suddenly it looks less like a beef and more like a business plan. Staged outrage, staged drama, profits up, witnesses down, and all the while, 2 men, Diddy and Jay-Z, rise like phoenixes out of the carnage. Was this chaos really just a bloody smoke screen orchestrated by industry friends who had the most to gain? Now we turn to that friendship, Diddy and Jay-Z. On the surface, it's 2 titans sharing celebratory drink, trading toasts at the Rock Nation brunch, their arms around each other, billionaires at ease. But look closer and the real story crawls out. Back in the late 90s when Shakur was supposedly gone and Biggie followed him out, Diddy and Jay-Z both faced separate brushes with the law. Diddy caught up in that notorious nightclub shooting. Jay-Z arrested after a stabbing in Manhattan. What a coincidence. Both walked away. Careers not only intact, but thriving. And right after that, they joined forces on albums, business ventures, and high society galas. A partnership that only grew tighter with each new headline. Forbes didn't just put them on a list. They put them at the top year after year. As the bodies cooled, the dollars piled up. I think that they don't want if they was in any of those freak-off tapes, if they played a part in any of those Diddy sessions. They don't want it to get out to the general public to make up their brand. We've all seen the photos. Jay-Z and Diddy back-to-back at award shows, side by side at high roller parties, even donating $1 million on live TV in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. There's the public version, the brotherly hugs, the playful banter, the endless self-congratulation. But behind those grins, people who knew them in the late 90s insist that what we're watching isn't just friendship. It's a business alliance with the same ruthless, calculating energy as a boardroom coup. One ex-road manager from that era still calls them gatekeepers. Not artists, but power brokers who only smiled when the path ahead was clear. Whenever I get in trouble, Jay-Z is the one I call. Diddy once declared on stage. The crowd loving it. But in hindsight, it hits different. Why did Diddy need a strategist? What sort of trouble did he anticipate? And who was in their way? The answer that keeps returning is Shakur. His last days read like the final act of a thriller. Paranoia, warnings, close calls, cryptic interviews. Some industry veterans swear he knew the hit was coming. And if you look at his lyrics, his interviews, even the eerie timing of his albums, it's hard not to get a chill. The beefs with Bad Boy, the veiled threats, the public feuds were one thing, but the sudden escalation. Shakur shot down in Las Vegas, then Biggie 6 months later, both unsolved, both at the heart of the so-called Coast War. Well, it starts to look like a culling, not a random act. Add to this the whispers that Diddy put a bounty on Shakir's head. Claims repeated by Dwayne "Kathy" Davis in police interviews and in his own memoir. Though now sitting in jail, Davis seems eager to muddy his own story. Now, why was he calling me, reaching out to me? But let's step into the deep end of the rumor pool. The theory, once pure fanfiction, now popping up in leaked FBI documents, the fake departure contract. It's a story that refuses to fade away. The idea that faced with a very real threat posed by industry rivals, namely Diddy and, in the latest twist, Jay-Z, Shakir turned to the only force more powerful than the music labels, the government. The theory says the FBI needed a wedge to bring down death row. So they offered Shakir a deal. Disappear. Let the chaos play out and live on under new protection. Perhaps in Cuba or Malaysia or who knows where. Maybe he's the pawn in a plan he never wanted to join. Every detail feeds the legend. The supposedly botched autopsy. The body never viewed by the public. The coroner's report with the wrong height and weight. The retirement of the man who handled his cremation. The cryptic words from his mother that Shakir chose to leave quietly. That thing and I was big man. That was the extent of our beef. Skeptical? Try explaining the parade of Shakir sightings from blurry videos in Cuba to Suge Knight's offhanded "Wish Shakir You Never Know" to the sudden flood of posthumous albums. His own lyrics seem to foreshadow it all. Talking about his own exit, about faking out enemies, about returning when the time was right. The clues in the Machiavelli album, the rearranged letters, the hints at resurrection, the exit Shakir enter Machiavelli on the liner notes. The FBI, if the files are legit, never closed the book. Why would they? Unless something big was left unresolved. All of this might sound like late-night smoke. But here's where the tension explodes. With Diddy's name splashed across headlines again, this time facing charges ranging from trafficking to racketeering. Suddenly, the past is crawling out of the vault. The allegations stack up, not just from former partners, but from new lawsuits tying Diddy and Jay-Z together at places, parties, and allegedly acts that now seem chillingly relevant. Jane Doe's recent suit, the mounting legal heat, the silence from Jay-Z. What are they hiding? Or who are they protecting? A former assistant to Diddy once put it bluntly. My life was in danger. Not metaphorically, literally. We watch as the dominoes tip. Biggie gone. Shakir vanished. Diddy and Jay-Z untouchable. Billionaire status achieved. The industry forever changed. Now, I ain't trying to say that some kind of conspiracy and maybe some other was going on or this, that, and the third, but brother, he had that conversation with Kate Slay 2 weeks before he was murdered. So, we circle back to the most tantalizing question. What if Shakir saw it all coming? What if he's out there, not just watching, but waiting, armed with the truth about how the gatekeepers seized the throne? If he returns, if he ever breaks cover, what does he know? And how many more secrets will finally come crashing into daylight? The deeper we go, the more the shadows crawl out from under the spotlight. And now we hit the most unexpected player in this whole drama, Beyoncé. For years, her story ran in parallel to Jay-Z and Diddy. Always close, always visible, but never directly involved in the chaos that swirled around them. We remember the early 2000s, Beyoncé, barely 20, stepping out with Jay-Z, already one of New York's rising mogul. But she didn't just date into power. She worked with both men, blurring the lines between creative partnership and industry allegiance. When Beyoncé dropped Summertime in 2003, Diddy jumped on the track. A few years later, the world saw Jay-Z and Diddy at her side at every possible event, grinning for the cameras while history quietly rewrote itself. Was Beyoncé just caught in the gravitational pull of two kingpins? Or did she understand more about the cost of their ascent than anyone else dared to admit? We have to ask, how could she not notice? As Jay-Z's empire ballooned and Diddy's circle shrank under mounting legal storms, Beyoncé's star only grew brighter. She was everywhere. The Oscars, the Grammys, her name a synonym for success. But her silence about Diddy's recent legal reckoning, especially with the lawsuits that now threaten to tear down decades of carefully constructed legacy, is deafening. There she is, still showing up at industry brunches, still hugging the same men the world is suddenly side-eyeing. Insiders whisper about the kind of loyalty that doesn't come free. Did her meteoric rise depend in part on not asking questions, or worse, on keeping secrets that could end careers if they ever surfaced? Nobody has forgotten that when Jane Doe named both Diddy and Jay-Z in her explosive suit, Beyoncé said nothing, posted nothing, barely blinked. We're left staring at a woman whose every move is choreographed, but whose silence might speak volumes. I want you to think about this. Allegedly, Sean Carter is responsible for enacting Hype Williams to put a Leo on a faulty plane to move her out the way as punishment for rejecting him and so he could level up Beyoncé. If Beyoncé knows something, and some say only she could put the final piece in place, her continued refusal to break ranks only fuels the paranoia.